Well, good afternoon and welcome, T-Bones fans. Dan Vaughn with you. The Steakhouse is open. Great show, big show for you. They're all great shows, right? They're all great shows. We talk T-Bones baseball and the American Association right here. Great show. Dylan Tice stops by. We'll also check in with the league and find out what's going on with the American Association. Give you a little T-Bones tidbit. Then let's roll this thing. Let's roll the open. Here we go. T-Bones Steakhouse is on the air now. Here we go. Glad you're along today. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Back on our normal schedule. We, of course, last week had a special Tuesday edition because of some scheduling, but I'll move the camera just a bit. We're glad you're along. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're safe. Hope you're on one piece. Here's the drill. If you're hearing me, we're going to thumbs up. I think the video's fine as well. If you're out there, love to hear from you. So I get thumbs up. Jeff, Mike, a couple of you guys already checking in. I'll also throw this out there to you as well. If you are inclined in the second part of the show, I'd love to have you guys on. I'll leave it's the open line version of the show. Open line time, right? We'll open line it for you and let you guys join me as well. If you want to jump in and ask a question personally in the green room, you can. If not, you can also stop by and just chat. The chat line is open. Show is full as always. I'm going to start with this first question, okay? It's it's the generic radio talk radio question, but I'm going to go ahead and start it as well. Kind of a question of the day for you guys. What team, now the association started, okay, that the American Association's got one series and now another game under their belts, 4 games in basically. What team are you rooting for? Who are you rooting for? Are you rooting for players? Are you rooting for a team? I'd like to kind of gather that just by judging from some of the social posts. I would say a lot of folks are on the Winnipeg bandwagon with 4 former T-Bones or connections. When I say connections, former T-Bones, or I say guys from our roster this year, or guys who played for the T-Bones in recent memory under Joe Capietro. There's 6 in Milwaukee, 4 in Winnipeg, 3 in Fargo, 2 in Sioux Falls, and a pair, actually 1 each in St. Paul and Chicago. So that's my question to you. As I see Brother Dean Butler out there. Yes, you guys are hearing me. Mike Martin chimes in. We got 1 vote, Mike, for the Chicago Dogs. I'm going to write you down. It's our little survey here. But who are you rooting for? Chicago, Sioux Falls, St. Paul, Fargo, Winnipeg, or Milwaukee? Those are your choices there. Also in the show, speaking of Milwaukee, good to see Ellen out there too. Joining us as well is Dylan Tice. Speaking of Milwaukee Milkman, he'll be joining us here in just a few moments. Wednesday's Wisdom also comes to you in a moment as well. I didn't load the graphics in it. We'll go without the graphics, but I do have some interesting Wednesday's Wisdom for you guys, and I'll save it for the second part of the show. We'll kind of close with that. I stumbled upon this, and I'd seen this before, and I don't know where I'd seen it, or maybe I'd heard of this before. But I'm going to take you to when some guys actually were playing for their lives. I mean, you think playing in a pandemic stuff, playing for your life on the line. We'll talk about that in Wednesday's Wisdom. Also, we won't go deep today in the KBO because we won't. As Major League Baseball is getting closer, the association's jumping back in. We'll kind of substitute. We'll still look at the KBO, but we won't go into as much detail as we have, and maybe a peek at the Japanese League just quickly, but we'll be diving in mostly in the American Association and talking about this first week It's been a busy week for them, and already some news and items as well. Good to see my wife out there as she's checking in. And thank you very much, Ellen. Appreciate the kind words. Appreciate it. All that. And also, we'll talk a bit about the T-Bones greatest hits. We'll be doing that again tomorrow at noon on MixLR. So a lot to talk about, a lot to digest. Sorry about the late start here, but all good. I'm going to bring the audio down just a tad there, and all good. So actually, I mentioned, I want to go do Wednesday's Wisdom first. Let's get off the out of the way here because Dylan's standing by. Give me a moment here. I did not actually put these other two items in. I want to do that real quickly for you as we produce on the fly here, but I actually downloaded a couple items. And Wednesday's Wisdom, basically it's a part of the show where either it's been things like, I really covered the social injustice that was hitting our country. That was a big part of things. A few weeks ago, we've talked about some baseball poems. We kind of keep us sort of busy while we're waiting out this whole thing. Let me pull this up while you're here. Sorry, guys. I went ahead a little early here, but a couple of photos I want to show you about Wednesday's Wisdom. And literally, guys playing for their lives. And I stumbled across this maybe September a year ago. One of the broadcast preps I was doing, maybe in the hotel somewhere. And the book was interesting to me. It kind of skipped my mind. It kind of got in the back burner, so to speak, and I just didn't dive in like I should. But there's a book out, and it came out last year, and I'm going to go ahead and put the screen up for you guys so you can see the book where this is coming from, because this is very interesting stuff. First off, there's the book right there. It's called Death Row All-Stars, a story of baseball, corruption, and murder. Yes, murder. It's by Howard Kazazian and Chris Enns. I believe how you say that. I've seen them both in their preview. There's actually a really good YouTube preview. You can go to YouTube and you can check that out. And it talks about the 1911 death row team in the Wyoming State Prison. Yes, crazy to think about. But in 1911, that was something that the players were literally playing for their lives in 1911. As the story goes, it was not uncommon, especially some of the more rural states. And at that time, Wyoming, Montana, the last frontier was still very much a frontier. Heck, parts of Kansas and Missouri were still parts of a frontier, even around 1900, although, commercializing and development, but still was a lot of frontier. And the way they would subsidize prisons back in those days, oftentimes, which has kind of come back a bit, privatizing prisons. What they would do is that they would have a prison, for example, the Wyoming State Prison was owned by a guy who his job was, his company actually made cleaning supplies and brooms and that kind of thing, right? That was their bit. They made brooms. You've heard the old joke about making license plates in prison or making widgets in prison, whatever. They had a business, a booming business. And basically the inmates, the free labor, cheap labor, very, very cheap, on the pennies labor. And they would run this, and it would really turn out at that time, in the turn of the last century, a lot of corruption would happen there. And so eventually that way of doing business in prisons eventually evaporated and became states and federals and all that. Now you're seeing private companies now investing in the rehabilitation. But Death Row All-Stars actually existed. And I thought at first, this has got to be some kind of bit, right? This has got to be some kind of, it just didn't, it not that it didn't make sense to me, but I thought there's no way in the world that you would have, and I know we have prison rodeos, and I know that inmates do play sports. That's not uncommon. I do know that. Down in Huntsville, Texas, they do this huge prison rodeo. I know that we also have in, we remember the movie, what was it? Mean Machine. What was that game? What was that when Burt Reynolds, and then the remake was with Adam Sandler, The Mean Machine. What was that movie called? Drawing a blank on it though, but prison football. So there's that. But death row inmates were forced to play baseball for their lives in a hot Wyoming summer in 1911. Tightly watched games. Big crowds would come and see these famous baseballers at the time. They were all guys that were serving time. Most of them, all of them, were on or close to death row or were waiting to be executed at that time, but all had a baseball background. It was one way to kind of to increase morale in the prison, also drive some income, entertain other prisoners, entertain the locals. In the many of the towns around Drew, I mean, these people came from all these towns around the prison to come watch, and these convicts had a legitimate stake in the ball game, as they simply, the thrill of victory was that, because the agony of defeat, well, that might make your one made closer to the gallows back in those days. But they were a fleeting sensation. The story goes, a collection of random convicts that happened to be good at the game. Let me give you a couple pictures here. This is actually a very interesting shot here. But this is one. This is one of the prison teams. This would have been later. This looks a little later in the scheme of things there. But you see the prison team. They had a little bat boy, a mascot, which I'm not so sure, because both pictures have this. I don't know in what place and day and age a mascot or a little bat boy would have been. I just can't imagine this day and age a bat boy being, especially a not even a teen, an elementary school age kid being a bat boy back in a prison gang. But oh well, that's the way it was back then. They had a star player, this Wyoming team did, named Joseph Sang. He was an all-star, and he really kind of got caught in the whole in a political back and forth a bit. They just played 4 ball games. They won all of their games, but every one was infused with more drama than a World Series. The small town of Rawlins, Wyoming, was where this happened at back in the day, and they would all these guys were robbers, rape charges, murderers of these towns around Wyoming, and sometimes they actually had, as it talks about, there was actually skin in the game. They actually literally had these publicity posters that they had skin in the game. George Parrott was a felon who played ball for this team in 1911. He killed 2 deputies, attempted to rob a train. He would want him to be lynched, and he would actually have they'd actually make shoes out of the poor guy's skin. So that was the culture of 1911 prison systems back then. But the story goes to tell you that this Joseph Sang, a murderer, convicted of murder, and I'm going to give you another picture of these guys too. So I'll pull this up for you. Trying to tell a story here, Vaughn. Let's see. Let's pull this one up. There we go. Bring this one down. This is the actual 1911 team. Again, another disturbing thing. Look in the middle of the picture. They got a youngster that's a bat boy. I still don't get it. I don't quite understand how in the world that was possible. But this Sang character, he was the leader of this bunch, a pretty good ball player. The owner of the prison was a guy named a millionaire named Graham. It was a broom factory. The state paid him to take the prisoners on. He paid for their well-being, and as long as they made brooms, he sold them for a big profit. He made $250,000 at that time in 1903 to 1911. That was a pretty big chunk of change. Conditions weren't real good, but if you played the ball team, the dark ages weren't so bad. You got to get out and practice and have a little BP that summer, and they actually drew huge crowds. The murderer, again, Joseph Sang, was a part of that team. The All-Stars played their first game on July 18th, 1911. 12-man roster. And they had plenty of thieves and 3 killers. And it was just it was a gang of ruffians, put it that way. And they played the Wyoming Supply Company Juniors, a team of All-Stars in the local community. The All-Stars, the Wyoming All-Stars, or the actually Supply Company, got beat 11-1 by the Cons, as they won 11-1, and then one of the runs was the headline was the Slayer scores a run, which was kind of crazy back then. They won their second ball game, and I don't see the score here in my notes. Here we go. They won their second ball game. All the ball games were big scores, 15-6. Again, the 11-4. But again, this thing kind of died out for 2 reasons. A, there was corruption rampant with this broom factory. That was piece number 1. Number 2 is that all these guys were eventually, even though they're playing baseball, were headed to their fates at some point, including our friend Joseph Sang, who was the team captain. He eventually was executed 2 years later. But for a short time, this actually stopped all executions, and it changed things dramatically in that summer of 1911, where they were drawing crowds of 10,000 to see these 4 exhibition games. And again, that one game, the 11-1 game, their first ball game, and they all were averaging, in that ballpark range. And fans were coming out, and these guys became sort of legends. Couple of things from this: A, those guys came a little bit too popular. B, justice eventually caught up to them, which did get me thinking. It got me thinking a bit. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but and maybe there's something there. Maybe all the corruption in the Dark Ages type of prisons for the 1900s. We've all seen Shawshank. We know how that movie goes. Maybe there's something there. Maybe there's something about getting normalcy back in our system. I mean, I'm not trying to be a political scientist here or sociologist. So what you said, honey? My wife, if she was here, she'd tell me sociologist. There you go. If I was not to be a sociologist here, but maybe, just maybe, there's a possibility for down the road. Have a little baseball behind bars. My suggestion would be, though, maybe not the death row inmates. Don't make those guys play for their lives, but maybe the lesser criminals who are there for a long time can be playing to maybe make them better. I don't know. Maybe I've always said, and I'm going to be serious about it now, and not tongue in cheek, but really being serious. I kind of feel like if we would solve some of our world's problems, maybe on the sports field, and take some of our lessons from the sports field, we might not be in such a bad spot. Just an idea. Longest Yard, yes, it was right. Longest Yard, Mike. That was the movie I'm thinking of with the Mean Machine. But yes, it's been a bit of a tradition over the years for prisons to rehabilitate via that. But I did not know this story. And apparently, this book, and I'm going to order this book because I'm interested to know. And this is one of those things that we'll talk about in the broadcast next summer on the radio. I'm interested to know the inner workings. That's kind of the nutshell version of Wednesday's Wisdom. But my take on Wednesday's Wisdom is, hey, maybe there's a future for all of us if we can somehow maybe play a little baseball, and that'll calm the nerves. You do your best. You have a tough time. You lose. You win. Whatever. You go about your business. Maybe that'll be a great way to get us all on the straight and narrow. Just an idea. All right. Great to see Kenny out there as well. Nalcito, good to see you, mate. Also, I'll be out there. The show is the Steakhouse. My name is Dan Vaughn, voice of the Kansas City T-Bones. If you joined me a bit late, you're wondering, what are we talking? The T-Bones aren't playing. That's right. They're not playing, but there is baseball being played in the American Association. The teams are now into game. They've got 4 games, 3 or 4, depending on what team you're in. They've got through the first series, sort of. We'll talk a bit about that in the second part of the show. But a guy that's going to join us here, I would think when it's all said and done, you're going to have a list of guys. We've already got a list. They're those lists. We've got the Jake Blackwoods, those type of players. They're those names that go down in T-Bone's lore. Dylan Tice, I think, will eventually go down in that same kind of breath because of his long-term association with the Joe Capietro era. I think his the kind of guy he is, type of player is, he'll go down in the long run as one of those all-time T-Bones greats. Whenever we do a T-Bone Hall of Fame, whatever you want to call it, he would be one of those guys that we would definitely have in that realm. But Dylan had a chance to join me earlier this week, and not on live, but so you can't ask him questions. But I want you guys to sit back, relax, enjoy Dylan Tice. Tice now with the Milwaukee Milkmen, off to a good start. Some very interesting insight to how baseball is going for him and how baseball is going in the American Association overall with this whole new pandemic way of life. So let's jump right into Dylan Tice from the Milwaukee Milkmen. And Dylan and I having a chat here on the Steakhouse. Glad you're along, and take it away there, Dylan and DV. Well, joining us now from Milwaukee, or points somewhere north, is Dylan Tice, former T-Bone, current Milwaukee Milkman, which still, Dylan, sounds weird to say, but howdy, how you doing? How are things up in Milwaukee?
I'm good. No, it feels weird to say too, but it's good. Things up here are good. It's a little north, a little cooler up here, but other than that, it's pretty similar. I'm just happy to be here. We're happy to be playing baseball.
Yeah, it was weird looking at the website today, the Milwaukee website, and see your headshot, and it's still. I when I tweet, it's former T-Bone, current Milkman. It's still odd. Is it it's been a whirlwind for you. I mean, last time we talked, gosh, it was back in April. You were still in the lockdown. We were all still in lockdown. You're working out, trying to do the best you could, and playing game nights with the family, and all of a sudden, boom, you're playing ball. Has it been that crazy of a whirlwind? It seems like it has been from just sitting here watching it.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, like you're planning. The other thing is getting married and things like that. Like we're moving on a lot at home too, and indie ball being 27, like every year is kind of your last year. You never know how long you're gonna have. So, um, it was really exciting to finally know that there was an opportunity. Once I got told about the draft and things like that, because I knew I didn't really want to go down to Texas. And the other thing is like how risky is it? You know, we're not told. It's not like the big leagues, or we're getting told what's gonna happen and we get to agree to it. It's just kind of like, here it is. This is how it's going to be. Do you want to play? You know, so we kind of had to say yes from the get go, and I was excited. So once the draft happened, like obviously I was thrilled then. That made things a lot easier. But come first game, I was talking to our manager, Anthony Barone, and I asked him. I said, "Are you nervous?" Now he's a first year manager, for professional baseball, and he said, "Actually, yeah, I am." And I said, "I am too." And I've played 3 years in this league, but I was nervous just from the fact that all this like anxiety and stress and caution and worry from the last 3 months of just like money and jobs and health and the whole the politics are big now and everything too. There's just a lot going on. To finally be able to like put all that aside and just play baseball was like, you were nervous and it like got your stomach going a little bit for that first game.
Walk us through the whole process, because I mean, we all went through it as front office folks. We got the message that, hey, we weren't going to be playing as T-Bones. I'm sure you took a call from Joe, perhaps, and then from there, how long was the process from going basically not playing into, oh, here's the draft? How did that work? Was it a short few days? How was that timeline?
Yeah, so throughout the whole 3 months, it was, playing baseball, you meet guys from all over the country, all over the world. So everybody was getting phone calls, so even in March and then the next month, are we going to play? How's your league looking? What's my league looking? What's your coach saying? And everyone's getting this inside info. Joe is one of the best communicators as far as like playing for. I mean, he loves his guys, so he's always like, we're the first thought in his mind. After he had told me, you got drafted by Milwaukee, I said, thank you. He congratulated me. We were all fired up, and I hung up the phone. And then for a second, I thought, and I called him back, and I said, well, what the heck are you going to do? But that didn't, like, for him, it was so natural not even worry about himself. And he just said, I don't know. I haven't thought about that yet. I got to call the rest of the guys and get it out there. So he made things, like, so much easier. Just the fact that he kept us, as much as he knew, he let us know. And so that made things easier. But then once the draft comes, it was like drafted Tuesday. Got the call from Anthony Tuesday night, so that instantly gets you excited again. We're kind of thinking, when's camp start? Camp was supposed to be the 25th, and he said, we'd love to have you out here sooner rather than later, because they don't know how ready we are either,
Right.
So they kind of want to see us on the field and
Sure.
and kind of gauge it for themselves. So I got out here. I was called Tuesday. I was out here Sunday night.
Didn't waste any time. Dylan Tice joining us here on the Steakhouse. Dan Vaughn with you. T-Bone's voice and current Milwaukee Milkman, Dylan Tice. One of our T-Bones legends, I like to say. Talking about Joe Capietro, too. I know Joe is it's been tough on a lot of us. It's an opportunity, though. And it's a great opportunity for young men like yourself, because right now, currently, only game in town. Not only game in town, the only game playing really anywhere in North America besides local baseball. Has that sunk in? You guys are the only game playing. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah, it was. And that makes that gives it that much more unknown. So it was, it's nerve-wracking, but it's cool. We were excited. And I was honestly more excited for the fact that like this was it. There's only 6 teams now. It was dense. This was going to be, I mean, we're the best league out right now.
Yep.
Especially some of these East Coast leagues, the Can-Am, the Frontier, and some of these Atlantic League, if they don't get leagues going, we're it. So it was exciting. I mean, everyone wants to get in this league, getting calls left and right from guys congratulating me and things like that. So that was very exciting.
As far as camp, what was camp like? I mean, obviously, independent ball camp is not like going to, affiliated camp where you might be there for weeks on end, maybe months on end if you're extended. It was a whirlwind fast. What was it like? Was it different than normal? I mean, how was training camp different for you guys in Milwaukee?
Well, obviously, we had some of the COVID stuff. We had the meetings and warnings and advice and things. They told us kind of how they want to do things. But after that, I mean, Anthony brought in a like a veteran club, and we have a lot of all stars. Like this is essentially being like in the All-Star game last year. And when you get in
Right.
that instant, yeah, Anthony doesn't really have to push. He kind of did more of like, what do you guys need? You know, the first day we did our general, ran our infield, outfield, we did our bunt covers, our first and thirds, covered everything we had to. And then he would just say, outfielder, infielders, what do you need? You know, and a lot of times with younger guys and just even the first thing of camp, you got to tell them what to do. They're going to push. But for us, it was kind of, you want to show off for the guy next to you, you know, because you want to prove you're just as good as the all-star playing next to your right and to your left and the center. And it's just stars all over, you know, for this league. So that was really exciting. That made camp like fun. It was, you know, it was almost like a pickup game every day where you just want to show what you can do.
Yeah, I look at these rosters. All of them are like that. I mean, really, these are like superstar rosters, like you mentioned, all-star rosters. But there's a few names you recognize. You've got a couple old mates, a couple former teammates, and Mason Davis is there, and then of course, you know, Dylan Baker would have been back this year with the T-Bones. You've got some familiar faces. You know, that's got to help a little to have folks you know something about. That makes it a plus.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And even like I said, being the All-Star game with Simpson and Narrier and you know, Vertigan and some of these guys, like I've known them well too. You know, Vertigan when he came to Kansas City, we played a game of pickup basketball on the court back there before BP. So I know, you know, like I felt more comfortable than just the, you know, Cray and Baker and some of the other guys
Right.
I played with on the
Christian,
T-Bones.
yeah.
But there was, I mean, I was 6'10" guys on this roster that I knew pretty well coming in. And it was essentially the core, you know, even Adam Brett Walker. You know, I played with him. He was
Yep.
in Kansas City. I knew he
Yeah.
was a great guy, and he's kind of like the guy in Milwaukee right now. You know, he's our poster child. He's the man because he's from here and he's a stud. You know, so it's I knew guys coming in, and I was excited to be a part of this team.
As far as this whole COVID, I mean, this is a different thing. You've never gone through anything like this. None of us have. How has that adjustment been with the whole COVID in general? I mean, obviously you guys have protocols, but is that on your mind constantly every day? Do you guys go about your business that COVID's always on your mind?
Yes and no. Once you kind of step foot on the field, for the most part, you feel okay. Especially since you know we're spaced out in the field, we're outside. You know, so that part of it feels pretty safe. But yeah, like even we haven't gotten on the bus yet. We were talking about, you know, doing mandatory masks on the bus, things like that. Step foot in the locker room is tight. So it's kind of those things, you know, when you're in the locker room for an extended period of time, you start thinking like maybe I should, you know, get outside, get some air in here, whatever. Um, but again, once you get on that field, like it takes over. You know, the only thing I would say is there's a lot more obstacles leading up to the game. You know, every game kind of feels like the first game of the season when you do the anthem and they march out and they
Right,
announce every player. You know, you have extra things now to worry about, but it's like that every game. Okay, there's no
right.
towels in the dugout. There's hand sanitizer in between every inning. You got to sanitize. You got to wash your hands throughout the game. Things like that, where you know eventually you become immune to it, but at the same time, it just kind of delays everything. It makes it a little slower. But
Did they? I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you there. Did they make you memorize any kind of these protocols? Do you guys have these by memory, or do you have a list in your pocket? Because it seems, I mean, what I hear, you know, Major League Baseball is a long list. I know the association is a long list. Do you have to put this to memory? Do you carry a cheat sheet? I mean, because that seems like a lot of things to remember.
yeah, they didn't hit us all at once with this. Honestly, I don't. I think a lot of it is they like some of these weren't put in place ahead of time. Not as a knock. I'm just saying like some of this stuff is unknown. Like you would never even think about it, and then when it happens, it's like,
Right.
all right, do it this way, and you're like, all right. So you're just on the fly. You're kind of learning and adjusting. A lot of it is we decide on our own. You know, a lot of times guys are like, well, this is just sounds dumb. Like during spring training, we have you know, there's nobody in the visitors locker room because Chicago was down. So
Right.
you know, shower over there, shower here, you spread it out, like just stupid things like that. There's common sense we've kind of add on our own. But yeah, the league has helped us with a lot of advice, and they've kind of educated us as much as they can on how to be safe.
The voice you're hearing is the Dylan Tice, former T-Bone and Milwaukee Milkman. Still sounds crazy. Dan Vaughn with you here on the Steakhouse. You kind of mentioned this a little bit, and I actually wrote this down as a question, and you kind of alluded to it, but when you step out in the field, you look out in the stands, and I saw the videos and watch part of the games. Does it seem normal when you're playing? I mean, I know the COVID thing kind of goes away, but when you're in the batter's box or you're out in the field, does that go away?
Yeah, it did for me. It did
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, once we're out there and we just played, it's kind of like once you're first thing in baseball, the first mind is like, this is a 60-game season.
Yep.
We need to win today. Today matters.
Right.
It's not like a normal season where, if you go 0 for your first game and 0 for your second game, you're like, all right, I got 98 games left. I'll get it going the next few, next few at bats. It's kind of like we're down 2-1. We got 3 innings to go. We got to
Yep.
win this ball game. So that takes over a little bit of competitiveness, and we're trying to win a championship.
Yeah, and that was man. You're just like you and I know this too well. We've done this before, so we're like a team here. But my next question was the sprint, because my work in Australia, it's a 40-game season, and really every game. Well, every game matters in a 100-game season. Every game matters in a 162-game season. Joe said that. Joe Capietro said that all the time. The first one means the same as the last one, but in a 60-game season, boy, you a 4 or 5 game losing streak. Yikes! 4 or 5 game winning streak. That's pretty good. Does that change you guys as a team approach, that this is a not just a sprint, this is a short sprint?
Yeah, I don't know if it as much changes how much. I think the energy's there regardless. Like a lot of times maybe you'll have to push a team to do this because you do have 100 games and your off season was normal. But now the fact that our off season has been 10 months, everybody's chomping at the bit so bad. And like I said, like it's essentially an all-star team, so everyone wants to pull their weight.
Right.
Like this isn't a year where it's like, okay, I can hit 270 this year because everyone else in the lineup will hit 300.
Right.
It's like I want to hit 300 because I know the other 8 guys are going to hit 300, and this can be a special lineup. This can be fun. So I think that kind of elevates it too.
As far as the whole overall state of things, that you're away from home, and you're always away from. This is part of the game. You're part of being a player. You travel. You're away from your fiance, your family. But this is a little different. Are you a little family concerned that you're not with them in this real crazy time, or is that in the back of your mind?
Yeah, it's more of the fact that visits become tough.
Right.
So like even my fiance, we can fly her out, but with work and everything, even with COVID, like she's working from home. Is she allowed to leave? Is it safe to leave? Will, my host family, like she's probably, we got to get a hotel and things like that. And then even the other thing that goes along is as players, like me doing something dumb can ruin someone else's season, right? So,
Right.
even as far as that, everyone, we're not going to tell other guys not to see their family, but at the same time, it's kind of a respect thing, when everyone's asking before you do things, kind of make sure that you don't ruin it for any of their teammates.
Right. Sure. That makes total sense. Wrapping things up with Dylan Tice. As far as have you talked to, you mentioned this earlier, but have you talked to guys who aren't playing, and some of your teammates in the T-Bones? I use, because that's what we're a T-Bone show. You talk to some of those guys that aren't playing, and what's your message been to them? What have they said to you?
Yeah, of course. I talked to a bunch of those guys. And some of those guys are in our leagues. Joe's got a lot of those guys, those
Sure.
jobs. I mean, almost all of them are playing, I think. Not there until their leagues start. But yeah, I have talked to them. Everyone wants to know kind of how the process is going and what we're doing. But that also reminds me again, like when they tell us a rule that makes things a little harder, I try to remember like these guys aren't playing. Like a month ago, I told myself I will do anything to play. I don't care if I have to wear a mask on the field. I don't care if I have to get dressed out in the parking lot instead of the locker room, like whatever. So that kind of always puts it in perspective, when things are a little tough around here, we got to get tested, we got to do this, and we got to move into hotels and things and quarantine for whoever, that is one thing that kind of brings it back is when I talk to these guys, that they're at home, they're still training, just hoping that there's an opportunity because one of these teams could call, their league could start up. You just got to be ready for anything.
Final thing. You writing these things down, stories. There's some stories to tell. Nobody has been through any of this before. None of us have been through this in our lifetime. Even old guys like me. Are you writing this down? You're keeping a memoir? I mean, there's some stories to tell down the road about this. I mean, are you able to kind of soak that in yet, or is it as it's happening? Maybe you're not having a chance till maybe later on.
I haven't. No, I haven't. I should do a journal or something. No, I haven't written it down. I got a lot of it in text, though. The amount of text and calls I get, just curious of the situation and how we're doing and check in to make sure I'm okay and how am I swinging it and blah, blah, blah. So I got phone calls and texts all day, every day, trying to get back and DMs on Instagram and people, a lot of support, but, I guess I'm trying to type the situation and keep everyone updated. So I got it all through there. I guess I can flip back and find some things, but hopefully I remember this all. I'm trying to focus on the good things and keep going forward.
Well, my friend, it's always great to see you and appreciate your time. And you're off to a good start. I didn't get a chance to even talk about that. You're off to a good start, but it's baseball. But that's another thing. And as we wrap it up, you were in shape. You weren't just sitting around in your duff up in Pennsylvania. You're busting your hump. We saw that. That's a big plus too. You came ready to play, didn't you?
I had the weight situation and stuff in my basement, so I'm probably in better shape than I ever have been as far as like going into a season. So yeah, I'm ready. I mean, more ready than probably most years.
Well, I appreciate your time. Best to you. Best to your family, to your fiance, and from all the T-Bones family. We're proud of you. We love you, and we'll be pulling for you. I'm sure you've heard from us all, but appreciate your time. Be safe, and we'll be watching you on the American Association site. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for
That
having me
is Dylan Tice right there. Appreciate his time for joining us. So it's been a busy week. What we didn't really talk about, we talked about a little bit. He mentioned it a little bit there, but they had a busy week, and this is where we kind of segue in the American Association news. If you didn't see this on Sunday, they were headed to the ballpark in Milwaukee to wrap up the 3-game series with Chicago. They didn't play, and initially the announcement was kind of it was due to some concerns, and it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that it was obviously in this day and age a COVID situation. There were some players who tested positive, and they had to bang the game, and that game was moved. I assume replayed later. They had the off day on Monday, and they got back in action last night. Dylan did play last night, by the way, in the Milkman's win over Chicago in 10 innings last night. So that is good news. The test for him was I should say, it's not positive. It was a good outcome, right? That's what I'm trying to say. But it's been a really, really crazy stretch, and it's interesting to hear from a guy who's there. And I think that last comment he made, talking about just the whole, guys are calling him because right now, let's think of it this way: if you work in a bank, for example, right, and you're a teller at a bank, and you're the only bank in town that's open. Well, all your friends who are tellers at banks are going to call you and say, "Hey, man, how's it working right now in COVID?" I mean, people want to know. You're a restaurant bartender, whatever. Right? Everybody wants to know how it is where you're at. Well, it's the same thing in baseball. I mean, right now, what they're doing is being watched by the big leagues, the NFL, the NHL, the NBA, and all that. Anybody that's playing in the world, Korea, Japan, they're all being watched, and they're being watched closely. And you heard him say, a lot of his former teammates have reached out and saying, "Hey, how's it going?" And I thought the other interesting thing was, too, how much this thing is changing on the fly. We've talked about this in my house. We talked about it to you guys on the air. This thing changes all the time. We've never been through this before. We've been through certain things before, right? But this is something we've never been through. So educators, they've not been through this before. I mentioned people working in a bank, bars, restaurants, whatever. No one's been through this. And because of that, things are liable to be fluid. Things are liable to change. I think baseball is learning that now as the major leagues are back in action, or at least not in action, in their spring training 2.0 / summer training. They're learning things as they go. Players testing positive, the protocols, all the things that are going on. It's new for everyone. And that's the age we live in at the moment. And that's just craziness. But yes, Kenny, great young. He is a great young man. Dylan, to give a little background on Dylan Tice for you guys that don't follow the T-Bones as much, Dylan was played independent ball, went to a small college up in Pennsylvania. Was one of those kind of guys, was a stud with their team, went undrafted, which I still don't get it. He got a crack with the Mets in 2018 season, the year the T-Bones won the championship. I remember that day vividly. He talked about that in our last interview last time back in April or March, whenever it was we had him on the show. And he pulled off the field during batting practice and got picked up by the Mets, played a short time with their short season club, and then got released. But I'm telling you, this guy can play. He's a heck of a ball player. He is a ball player. One of those guys, you put a definition, ball player. That's what this guy is. But he's also a phenomenal human being, a phenomenal young man. And I said that earlier. One of the reasons I said that, and I see Bobby Curcio checking in, and Keith would be in that same boat. There's certain players you meet along the way, certain families, players that are going to that become sort of synonymous with your ball club over the years. And I think when it's all said and done, guys like Dylan Tice, I mentioned Keith Kersey only played the 1 year for the T-Bones, but he was a very big part of the whole year. And they go down as top players all time of your little organization, and top people as well. And he talked about Joe Capietra, and I think a lot of that goes to Joe, the kind of type of player, type of people that Joe gets as well to play for Kansas City. So big thanks to Dylan there. A little extra for you guys too. A little update on what's going on. Last night I mentioned, of course, the game so far. There's only been one game that's not been played. It was the Sunday game there in Milwaukee. And basically the only traveling been done so far was Milwaukee to Chicago. Now, Dylan told me before we shot that interview earlier, at the time, they weren't sure exactly if they were going to be wearing masks. I mean, obviously they figured they'd be wearing masks on the bus, but it was a new thing for them. So far, the bubble cities, no one had to travel. They were the first team to travel from Milwaukee to Chicago. It's 108 miles, something like that, maybe less. I think from there in Franklin to the airport in O'Hare, it's probably more like 80 miles, but whatever the case may be, they had a pretty short trip. And even though it was a bus trip, that was something that they were having to navigate. They've not done yet. So that was part of it. But that last night, Milwaukee came back to win that ball game in Chicago, and the other two teams just flip-flop dugouts, basically, other two cities. Winnipeg was the home team last night against Fargo. They're in Fargo. And then last night, St. Paul's home opener was in Sioux Falls, as they were the home team against the team there in Sioux Falls. Let's see what Mike says. Although probably tired of doing it, constantly fist bump Joshua between each inning. Loved how he treated. Yes, Keith is one of those kind of guys. They would always do that. I loved how he treated the fans. My daughter, Jenna's favorite player ever. Yeah, Keith's a phenomenal young man, and I can't speak enough about guys like that. One of the things I'm blessed about, Mike, I think you would agree with this, Mike, to be on the inside, so to speak, is to meet great people, great players, great young men like that, and like Keith and like Dylan. But really good stuff there, Mike. By the way, a question I asked at the top of the show, in case you missed it. Of course, this is the Steakhouse. My name's Dan Vaughn, voice of the Kansas City T-Bones. T-Bones aren't playing this summer because of the pandemic. The league plays on. We'll talk about more of that in a moment. But my question to you guys off the top: who are you going to root for so far? You got Chicago, St. Paul, Sioux Falls, Fargo, Winnipeg, and Milwaukee. Those are all your choices right there. And let's see what. So you bet, no doubt about it, Bobby. Kind words, no doubt, and well-earned kind words as well. But right there. Okay, update. I don't have a graphic for you, but I'll give you a little cover video, though. But the T-Bones right now, former T-Bones playing in the association now. I've got 17 that are actually playing. Now, some of those guys who were drafted didn't play. And this also includes guys who were T-Bones who were either not signed. It includes guys like Mason Davis. So I got Mason Davis in this group as well. But 17 T-Bones or former T-Bones, either T-Bones signees this year who had been on T-Bones this year, or guys who played for Kansas City are playing the association. And I tell you, across the board right now, there's a vote for Milwaukee there. I'll write that down for you, Mom. Milwaukee has a vote. So we're tied at 1, Milwaukee and Chicago. I'll reveal mine later. But guys, who you're rooting for, let to know who you're rooting for in the association. Jordan George, off to a great start in 4 ball games for the Winnipeg Goldeyes. George is gone 6 for 15. He is leading the pack right now, the T-Bones faction. 400 the average right now. He's driven in 6. Talk more about him in a moment. Just getting things down here. Just looking at the numbers, it's the first week. So, but as far as guys that have had some pretty good goes, one of them being George, had a big RBI last night. Pitching-wise, the headliner really has been both Eric Stout and Frank Duncan. Stout and Duncan probably both figure to have been your part of your rotation going into part of your rotation going this year for Kansas City. Would have been those guys, and a couple of guys that definitely would have been contributing factors. But I mentioned George, a guy that he's off to a good start. Last night had an RBI in the 6th inning for Milwaukee as well. I mentioned had the 6 hits, no doubles, homer, 6 driven in, no stolen bases. But he is hitting at a 400 clip right here. And here's him last night. There's George last night, courtesy of the American Association as well. This is courtesy of the American Association. There we go. But you can see the RBI last night. Cito Culver, the shortstop there for Winnipeg. But this is all from the American Association baseball shop. But here's an RBI last night. Rope to right, getting on base as well. He's one of those guys that's walked 4 times already so far, walking 4 times. He's got on base with the hits. I mean, the guy is just so far 500 on base percentage through the previous 4 ball games. So off to a good start. Here's Jordan George right there in the American Association. Darnell Sweeney, his teammate, in 4 ball games, has 3 RBIs as well. He's 4 of 16. Roy Morales is 2 for 11. Roy, a couple of driven in as well for the Winnipeg Goldeyes. So that's the big contingent there. As the dog says hello to us here. Sioux Falls, Olay Lago. Of course, Lago had a big home run already. He had a home run 2 nights, or actually been Saturday night for the Sioux Falls Canaries. He is 7 of 17, batting .412. Ryan Brett, also his teammate, is 2 for 11. Dylan Tice, I mentioned a moment ago, off to a good start, 3 for 11. Scored a couple runs, also has a stolen base, 2 stolen bases, pardon me, as well. I will actually, so jealous. Let's see here. I'm sorry, I got to catch up here. GM says St. Paul and Milwaukee. Well, okay, you get a half vote for St. Paul and a half vote for Milwaukee. And then let's see here. Mike says, what's Mike? Mike says, Chicago, St. Paul, Sioux Falls, Milwaukee. There you go. There's his in order. There you go. That's good. I like that. Christian Correa for the Milwaukee Milkmen. I didn't mention it. Yeah, Dylan mentioned his teammates there, but with Christian, Christian's 2 of 8 so far. RBI. Mason Davis, watched a bit of him last night. He's 3 for 12. Mayday has a stolen base. Of course, for the 18 team. Adam Brett Walker. Remember Adam Brett Walker? From a Twins farmhand, played a short time with the T-Bones in 2018. Adam Brett Walker, 2 of 12. He's kind of their guy, and you may have heard Dylan talk about that. He's kind of their star, their guy, Adam Brett Walker from Milwaukee. And then Cito Culver, who would have been a T-Bone this year, a 4-13 in the shortstop for the Fargo-Moorhead Redhawks, and got a couple of RBIs. A good-looking ball player. Boy, I would have shamed to not see him. Pitching-wise, mentioned Frank Duncan, the former Kansas Jayhawk. He had a 1 start this week, 6 innings, 4 strikeouts, got the win for Winnie. That was over the weekend. Jamison McGraney has worked an inning and a third of relief, has a save. Eric Stout, the start for Chicago, the only T-Bone with the Dogs. 5 innings, struck out a pair, got the win for them over the weekend. Their opening night start on Friday. AJ Schagel has worked 2 innings of relief, scoreless so far. Miles Smith, the closer from Milwaukee, former T-Bone, has a save in 2 innings for those Milkmen as well. Has 4 strikeouts in 2 innings. Jake Cozart, the T-Bone signee from this year, he is inning and 2/3 so far, an earned run. And then Michael Osnowitz is 2 1/3 innings. 4 earned runs, only came in 1 outing, though. His other outing was a good one. He's got a win in relief as well. 1 on Sunday in relief for Fargo Moorhead. So there is your update on the association right there. Interesting last night, too. I found this interesting. I don't know if you guys found it as interesting as I do. It's odd seeing – now, what I want you guys to look at here is to look at the St. Paul Saints lineup, not lineup, the uniform there. The St. Paul Saints playing in Sioux Falls, and I want to show you this final out from last night. It's a little odd, but it's interesting to note. It kind of shows you kind of the lay of the land of what's going on in the association. I want you guys to watch this final out last night and kind of what if you notice what I notice in this thing as well. I want you guys to see if you notice the same thing I picked up, because it's definitely interesting stuff. Let's see the final out last night. And there's the final play last night. First off, the St. Paul Saints are the home team. I want you guys to watch this right here. Watch this. Usually this shot here is going to be of the the team shaking,
The
the whole
St. Paul
line,
Saints
right? But look at the
fall
look at
to
the
the
players
Canaries by a final
slowly walking
score
off the field.
of
Ho hum,
5-3.
oh
They
well.
had the
Now they did
chance
a
in
little
the
celebrating out
bottom
by
of the
second
ninth
base,
inning.
but there's no long
Could not
line
come up with
of high
anything, which was the
fiving
story
and
of the ball
celebrating. None of
game.
that stuff that you
And
normally
they leave
see.
2 more
None of
stranded.
that
They left
being
at least a runner on in every
like
single
normal.
inning.
The
And they lose by
normal
a final of
baseball, it's not.
5-3.
I mean,
Take a
again,
break.
there's
We'll come
no.
back. We will
There,
wrap
there
it
you got
all up.
the
Saints lose
mascot. He
tonight
was doing
in their
his
first
thing, but
home game of the year,
the normal
5-3.
baseball, it's not. It's definitely a different time. And what I'm saying to you, you guys have seen that before many times, where you see the teams all come out and they all high five and everybody's in a long line, and it's a baseball tradition. But the Canaries won last night, and they all kind of sauntered off the field, except for 3 of them. That's the day and age we live in. That's one of the things Dylan was talking about, that how it is different now. Things are a little bit different. But good to see Robert Calvano. Speaking of great T-Bones right there, Robert Calvano out there. Robert, I saw you playing golf yesterday. Was it golf yesterday? Oh, man, getting the golf course again. Robert, I'm sure Robert's probably scratch as well, right, Robert? I know you are. You got to be, mate. Got to be. Good to see Robert out there, of course, living there in the metro. But, yeah, I don't know if you guys thought as well as I did. I thought the same thing. But watching that video, watching last night's highlight of that final out, to see those guys just kind of, oh, well, but even a doubleheader during the season, you see the whole high fives, none of that going on. So time for your questions and comments. We've gone a little long here, so I am going to forego the KBO and the Nippon for the moment. While I wait for your questions and comments, I can pull it up for you. I don't have the standings for you pulled up exactly, but I do want to give you guys a chance for final questions and comments for the show here. As good to see Craig out there, Winnipeg. By the way, Winnipeg off to a good start. Gold Eyes. Actually, granted, it's only the first 4 games, or 3, depending on who you're playing. But the Gold Eyes off to a 3-1 start. Here's the deal. Now, if you're Sioux Falls, or pardon me, if you're Fargo and you're Chicago, yeah, you're both 1-2 and 1-3. Especially in Fargo's case, you're 1-3 in your own ballpark. You really want to win the next 2 ball games, even though you're playing as the road team, because we've talked about this in this shortened season, in this shortened fast sprint season. You could find yourself at game 10 already in trouble, and trying to find and likewise, you can find yourself in game 10 in cruise control. So these are big games. You want to kind of, you don't want to fall too far behind. I've told you before, after 3 weeks, 2 seasons or last season, one team was already out of the postseason race in the ABL, and that's a 40-game season opposed to a 60. But still, you look at that, and you can be three rounds in and lose your first 9 ball games, and boom, you're already 5-6 games back with only 70% of the season left. That's it can be made up, but it's hard, and especially when you only have as few teams you have in a league like that. So you don't want to fall too far behind there. But again, questions, comments, fire them away. Here to answer them for you here on the Steakhouse. Glad you're along. Dan Vaughn with you, voice the Kansas City T-Bones on a Wednesday, back to Wednesday edition. I mentioned the KBO as they are rolling right along. Korean Baseball League, good baseball. I won't jump into the whole power rankings I've done in the past, but I'll kind of give you guys a little bit of an update on where things stand at the moment. Standings-wise, is I had the schedule up. I had to pull the standings up. Here we go. Standings. There we go. Standings-wise, nothing's changed as the NC Dinos have a 4-game lead in the KBO. They are comfortably in the top spot. But I mentioned the Heroes, Kowloon, they've firmly got themselves in the second position. Doosan, they've been jockeying back and forth, second and third. They're third at 5.5 back. Then LG, the Twins, are 7.5 back. Remember the Twins a couple weeks ago were in the second position. They dropped down 4th in the ladder. And then from there, Samsung is a playoff team right now, 8 games back. And then Kia would be the final playoff entry. They're 9 back. And then from there, it drops off. But the KT Wiz, who've had a pretty good week, but still climbing the ladder. They went from the 8th position out to 7th. They won 3 in a row, 8 of their last 10. They're they're a game and a half out of the playoff hunt right now, so they're making some headway. The Lotte Giants are 2.5 out of the playoff hunt right now. They have had a bit of a tough week. They only won 4. Actually, at a 6-loss week out of 7 days. That's not real good. Then SK is 20.5 back, and then Hanwha is 23.5 back. Sorry I don't have the graphics for you guys, but see that right there. Let's see here. Craig says, saw the attendance was 295 for Gold Eyes and Red Hawks. Can only imagine what it'll be like when Fargo's actually on the road. I don't know the whole deal there. I will say this. I talked to this. We had a conference call this morning with the T-Bone family, and something Chris Brown and I were talking about, just kind of passing the time on the call, was the Friday, Saturday crowds look pretty good visually. The Sunday crowds with the sun out, it's always hard to tell. Even in Kansas City, we might have 4,000 in KC, but they all might be in the shade. It's hard to tell with the open air sometimes out who's down low on a sunny day. Last night looked like a little light in the crowd department, but I will say this: it was a Tuesday night. Tuesday night in a pandemic, that may be more the case. Plus, Fargo was the road team. But again, interesting note, I find it fascinating that Winnipeg and St. Paul, all these teams are playing and taking their show on the road. And I find it just fascinating what Steve Schuster and the broadcaster for the Winnipeg Gold Eyes and what Sean Aronson, the play-by-play man of the St. Paul Saints, what it must be like for them to be packing up on the road. They spent a whole week, a little more than that, there in both Sioux Falls and in Fargo. They'll be moving on to the next city shortly. I believe they do the road trip coming up, but both teams, Chicago, Milwaukee, I believe is where they go. But yeah, we'll be interested to see, Craig, how that works out. I think that definitely a lot of, and as Dylan Tice said earlier, a lot of things are still on the go. A lot of things you're picking up as they go. We're all learning, and I don't think that I doubt. I hope I'm wrong. But probably not the last game that'll be canceled this year because of COVID. I would think that that's where the protocol works. But I hope I'm wrong with that. But if it's the way of sport this day and age, and that's how it goes. Questions, comments. Let's see. Goodbye to T-Bones fans headed to Detroit to have a good trip, Mom. To pick up family. Oops, sorry about that. I don't know why it's not coming down there. But have a good trip, Mom. Anyway, questions, comments, last call for you guys here on the show. I mentioned as well, what was I going to tell you? I had one more little thought about you, one more thought for you guys too. But yes, there was one little, and I meant to pull the video up. I'm sorry I didn't do it last night. I don't know if I've got that. I don't think I can access it quickly enough. And I meant to pull this up. There was a sprinkler delay, little sprinkler delay, very much Bull Durham-esque. You guys remember with Crash Davis and Bull Durham when they hadn't had a rain out all season and had been forever, and they had an off day. And Crash says, "I can get us a rain out," and he grabs a six-pack, and they go and bash open the side gate at the ballpark, and they get a rain out. Well, last night there in Chicago, there was a sprinkler delay. They didn't get a rain out, but there was a sprinkler delay. They had a COVID out on Sunday there in Milwaukee, but on those two teams playing in Chicago's Impact Field last night had a sprinkler delay. Yes, and so that was met with some fun as well. And I don't know if I don't have the video. Oh well. Show prep ran a little short today, but last call, questions, comments before we go. Mike Martin, this is for you. I want to show you guys this. This is the box that Mike packs the Gold Glove charities in right there. By the way, I'm going to put this on the screen for you guys too, so you can see Gold Glove charities. There you go. There it is, goldglove.org. There it is, the box he sent me right there. And here are those jerseys right here, Mike. I wanted to show them to you guys. We'll show them to you all. I already unwrapped them once, but I thought to show them to you on the air. These were really, really cool. These T-Bones jerseys. Can you guys see that? Covers my lights up there. There we go. There's the number. But good looking jersey. I'll pull this down. Maybe you can see a little better here. There we go. Got the number. T-Bone on the back. And you got the front. Of course, the colors will change in 2021, but a very good collector's item. I got a box of these bad boys and really excited to have them. Thanks to Mike Martin and the Gold Glove charities. You can go to Gold Glove right there, goldglovekc.org. His new website's up, and he can get you hooked up. Mike, I'm not sure how many you got left, but I know you got some other things as well. I got also, I'll pull this up too. somewhere here. There we go. There we go. Sorry about that. Got this as well, this little workout shirt as well, the Gold Glove charity shirt. Little nice, be nice for my morning workouts there, but nice, breathable. And that those are also available on the web. Gosh, come on, Vaughn. There we go. If this is a shopping show, I'd be failing badly. It's like I'm not very good at displaying the products, but there you go. There we go. Try it this way. There we go, Vaughn. There you go, right there. The Gold Glove Charities workout shirt. You can get those at goldglovekc.org. So very big thanks to Mike Martin for those, and a big tip of the cap to him. So please check those out there on his website. But yeah, the Gold Glove Charities jerseys. Other odds and ends. Let's see. Rumor has it that there'll be a Frank White, Tommy Collier, and a few others hit the market this week. How about that? Don't tempt me, please. Don't tempt me, please. Oh, man, those are two jerseys I definitely would be all for getting. Because I got Ramsey's, and I got I believe Ramsey's and a couple more random numbers, but Ramsey's for sure for my collection to go with my ones in KC. They're on the wall. They're in the broadcast booth right now. The Nick Torres one is on the booth wall right now, and I haven't seen it in way too long. But yes, interesting stuff. By the way, if you want to catch the American Association games, they'll be on the night on their website. There's their site right here. There it is. It's up and rolling. There's a subscription service, but I think it's well worth it. If you guys are interested in the association, want to follow the association, there it is. Association, it's a www.aabaseball.tv. There it is right there, and the American Association site. And it's basically $20 for all year, $19.99. It's if you want to check it out, you can do a free trial for I believe 3 days, but it's a really good site. Also on that page, you've got some bonus content from your T-Bones. I've put up on there the Steakhouse. We're calling it Steakhouse Bites. I've taken Rob Panier's interview from last week, Christian Correa from 2 weeks ago. I'll put Dylan Tice's interview up there as well. There's a place for T-Bones content now. We don't have any live games or any highlights, but we will put up some T-Bones content here and there. And right now there's a couple of interviews. If you missed the shows in the past, they're also on that website. So feel free to check that out in the association TV site right now. Also coming up this week, don't forget a big one coming up tomorrow. And I hope you guys will join me because this is a show I'm excited about. I enjoyed it last week. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. Basically what I do is I turn on the old MixLR, the old T-Bones Broadcast Network, the audio side of things. This audio, not video. Fire up an old ball game. Last week it was the no-hitter from 2018, the combined no-hitter from 2018. For the most part, you hear the entire game, at least the game broadcast, not the post game. I break in here and there with some tidbits. We're chatting back and forth as well. It gets very interactive, so you can chat back and forth during the live broadcast. I'll answer questions and give you some insight. There was some insight into our travel last year during this or 2 years ago during that time. So I'll pull that curtain back as well. And I definitely will do that for you. And love to have you guys on. It's noon tomorrow from the vault. It's like a rock station. It's like, this is K-T-Bones, right? K-T-Bones rock. It's classic rock T-Bones radio. And we go to the classic vault and we pull that vault open and pull you out a game. And quite honestly, I'm not going to tell you what it is yet because you'll have to find out tomorrow. Usually I'm on the fence right now. I still haven't decided. I got 3 games pulled and I just can't decide which one I should do. So we'll let you guys know tomorrow. But join me tomorrow noon on MixLR, and we will have that for you. Questions, comments still coming. I'll get a couple of them to you as we wrap things up here on the Steakhouse. Let's see here. The question is, any Cody W jerseys? That'd be Cody Winarski jerseys. That I don't know. Yes, we got the Nick Torres jersey ourselves. Yes, in the booth there. It's the one from 2018. The 18 season, right? Yeah. No Cody, Mike says. I have a Dylan Baker. I held back the big boys as they will get a bit more pride. Yes, okay. I get you. Hey, We may be actively bidding again, Mike. We'll have to see how that goes. So all good. But yes, there's Mike right there from Gold Glove Charities. But again, does a great job, and we appreciate his support of T-Bones Baseball. Glad you guys are along. And again, we'll be back on the air next Wednesday, same time, same place. It'll be a noon start. And we'll roll right through. We'll get you updated on the T-Bones, how the T-Bones connections did this week. Some odds and ends for the association, like Sprinkler Gate, perhaps. We'll have more updates on that. I'll keep the COVID update coming as well. And also have an interview of some sort. I don't know what it's going to be. Just got this show done. So we'll worry about this show, that show next week. Also, feel free to follow me on my channels. Love to have you follow me on my channels. There they are right there socially on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram right there. Due to situations, that's where all the T-Bone stuff is going at the moment. So feel free to check that stuff out. Also, The Broadcaster Can Cook is also up. As always, there it is right there. And you can check that out on my YouTube page as well. You can get your own cooking insights from this guy because believe me, I got plenty of time on my hands, plenty of time to cook, and plenty of time doing nothing is just kind of doing what I got to do. Let's see. Weiss says, like those guys too. Let's see. No more Sam Street. Mike says no more Sam Street. Nope, Sam Street. Oh my gosh. We got Joe. Okay, there we go. That's all the guys we got. Okay, so we got some big ones coming up on that. That'll be on Mike's website. I have to check that out. When's that going to go up, Mike? You're going to have that up. What day will that be? Is that going to come up certain time of the week, certain day of the week? Give me a shout out to that real quick, and I can post that for everybody too. Big thanks to everybody who joined me today. Of course, Dylan Tice for his time with us. I just thank him immensely. Thank the American Association for the video content as well. All you folks who joined us on the chat line, you guys feel free. We'd love to have you join the green room again next week. I'll do this. I'll put it up again. If you guys want to jump on personally and just have a quick chat about the T-Bones and answer any questions, open line the last part of the show next week. I'd love to have you guys do that if you'd like to. But again, waiting just for a moment for Mike, and then we'll let you guys. Let's see here. Yeah, and of course, let's see here. Yep. Anyway, just checking the chat. Okay, Mike's okay. Oh, he'll let us know. Yeah, Mike, let me know. He says at the end of the week at the latest. Yeah, let me know so we can tweet that out for you as well. But Mike will be updating the website again, the Gold Glove Charity site. So appreciate it, Mike, for that. It's the part of the show I hate the most against that close sign that goes up. It is, I hate it. Gosh, I hate it. The close sign. It means we've come to the end of the show. Another great show. Thank you for everyone for joining us, even for 5 minutes, 5 seconds. If you drove by and said hi, thank you. And all you T-Bones fans, thanks for being a part of our T-Bones family as well. I keep telling you guys, be safe. Most of all, love others, love somebody close to you, hug somebody virtually if you have to. It's a virtual hug. But most importantly, let's all be better at the end of the day and be better tomorrow than we were today. And let's continue to show the love and try to embrace each other during this tough time. But keep the faith, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Go T-Bones. And as we like to say, we close out our broadcast. Good night, Sizzle. See you later.